Hi everybody, and happy Christmas to you all. I hope that this Christmas Eve finds you in a good space with your family and friends, celebrating the wonder of the condescension of God. Now that's a big word, that God would condescend to become a human being. But we just get this graphic picture of the greatness of who God is, the wonder of His sovereignty, the wonder of His creative ability, the wonder of Him just being God of the universe. And how God of the universe became a little baby just blows my mind. I don't know about yours, but that He would condescend Himself to become just that. There are so many scriptures that speak to this, and I would like just to read one of these as you get a picture of what Christmas really is about. And this is what it says in Hebrews chapter 2. It says, your attitude should be the same as that of Christ Jesus, who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but He made Himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, He humbled Himself and became obedient to death, even death on a cross. You see, people, I think that we need to understand a profound truth right here. And Christmas, we all know, is a time of celebration. It's a time of giving and receiving of gifts. Some people receive a lot of gifts. Some people, only a few, maybe some even none. But the fact is that the gift-giving aspect of Christmas is a big deal. But we look at the Christmas gifts that we have underneath our tree and we think that's really cool, and for many of us it is. But the greatest gift of Christmas is not the gift that's under your tree, it's the gift that hangs upon a tree. It's the gift of Jesus, who condescended to leave the throne room of heaven to become a human being, not just to be a cute baby, not just to be a sentimental reason for us to celebrate, not just to come and teach us good code of ethics and conducts and morals, not just even just to teach us the way that we can get to heaven, but He came to die for you and for me. So behind every cradle stands the cross. And the cross sits in this place of preeminence. The cradle sits in its shadow. There is a cross with every aspect of Christmas. So the greatness of the gift of Jesus who hung upon the tree is far greater than, as I said, than the gift that is under the tree. And then we say, well, why did God do this? Why would God even be concerned? And the answer to that is, I don't know. I don't know why God would be concerned with a humanity that spat on Him, that beat Him, that put Him up on a cross. Even go back in history, I can't understand how God would be so gracious to a group of people who would just deny Him, who would deliberately go against Him. Who knew full well what He wanted and what He didn't want, and they went and did the opposite to that. How crazy is it that God would still love people despite what people had become and despite the fact that they rejected God to such a great extent. And I am reminded of the wonder of the condescension of God when I think that God has often come down to earth. You know, the fact that He came down at Christmas is one aspect that we have to acknowledge, and that's the big one we celebrate. But this is not the first time that God has done this. I think of the time in Exodus chapter 3, where God has a conversation with Moses. Remember, Moses was standing at the burning bush and he was mesmerized by what he had seen. He saw this bush on fire and it was not being consumed. And then he has this conversation with God and he says, Lord, what are you doing? And this is what it says in verse 7. I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned for their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hands of the Egyptians. Listen to this. God saw their misery as He has seen ours. He heard their cry and He was concerned. Isn't that amazing? That God would hear, see, and be concerned. And then to culminate where He says, I'm so concerned that I have come down to you to redeem you. Now, in this sense, he came down to redeem them from the Egyptians. I'm going to tell you, he's come to redeem us from a thing far worse than the Egyptians. The Egyptians are a picture of bondage. The children of Israel were in bondage to the Egyptians in Egypt. And God came down and through Moses delivered them from that bondage. Today, he's come in the form of Jesus to deliver us from something far greater than the Egyptians in bondage to the system of the world. He's come to deliver us from the ultimate enemy of mankind, which is sin. So that's what I would love for you just to think about this Christmas Eve. As you may be celebrating your gifts tonight, won't you remember that the greatest gift is not the gift under the tree, but is the gift that hangs upon that tree, and that is Jesus. I hope that this Christmas is a meaningful time as you just reflect on the incredible nature of the wonder of the condescension of God, that he would become a human being on our behalf. Helene and I would just like to wish you all an incredibly happy Christmas and a God-filled, a Christ-filled Christmas. And from the elders of the church and all the staff here, we love you guys, and we hope that this is a great Christmas for you all. God bless you. Thank you for listening to me. Bye-bye.